discussion?
We did.
Marnie?
Yes.
Would you like to explain what or do I just need to move a motion?
Is there a motion in agenda item 3A16 to find that the complaint was not filed on justifiable grounds and should be dismissed?
So moved.
Second.
Although, Amy, roll call, please.
Stellar Croft,
Yes.
Ms. Craig,
Yes.
Ms. Genovese, and Ms. McCrory,
Yes.
Mr. Turbin,
Yes.
Mr. Brett,
Yes.
Vice Chair Donahue,
Yes.
Chair Watson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, Marnie, thank you
Thank
for all your information and work today. Report from our Executive Director, Bernadette, please.
Okay, good morning again. So the first item on my agenda is a March 19th, 2024 general primary election update. Brent Davis, Director of Election Operations, prepared a memo for the board, but I'll briefly summarize it. The State Board of Elections provided Election Day support to members of the public and election authorities throughout extended hours on primary election day. Support was provided by 31 staff members from 5:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. on Election Day. Despite the low turnout numbers, the agency received a pretty steady amount of inquiries by phone and email throughout the day. For this election, we implemented a new system for real-time tracking and monitoring of the calls that we received. In this manner, all staff members could monitor the list throughout the day for situational awareness, to track and identify any systemic issues, and also to ensure quality control and accuracy of the responses we provided to the callers. We logged 116 calls on Election Day, but that doesn't include general inquiries just for registration status or polling place lookup. We provided a chart to you all in the memo of the most common issues reported. The subject matter of these calls was mostly consistent with what we typically receive, and the issues reported were mostly of minimal consequence to voters. So all things considered, the number of voters affected by the issues that we received calls on was very small in comparison to the number of voters that participated in the election. Brent and I are both available if you have any other questions about Election Day, but it was busy, but it was routine, so a successful Election Day.
Good. Thank you to all those 31 that worked those many hours. Continue, Bernadette. Or is there any questions for Bernadette or Brad? Continue.
All right, great. The next item is this is a late precinct report. So since the 2010 general primary election, the board has asked staff to conduct a 2 a.m. survey in order to gain insight into how many precincts had any issues getting unofficial election results reported, as well as the types of issues encountered leading to the delay of precincts reporting. For the 2024 general primary election, only one jurisdiction did not report all precincts by 2 a.m. The City of Chicago Board of Elections reported that 20 of over 1,200 precincts failed to report unofficial election results by 2 a.m. This was due to election judge error. In these instances, election judges left the cards in the following wards and precincts that are outlined in your memo and did not bring them to the remote transmission site. So when this happens, the unofficial results are later uploaded directly at the central counting site. So this is pretty routine for what we've seen for the late precinct reporting for jurisdictions. It's very rare that a jurisdiction has a major tabulation issue that results in late reporting. This type of issue, and especially for City of Chicago, is fairly routine. So,
Member Craig?
I hate to pick on Lance Scott, but since he's here, I want to ask you, in your expertise, there was report downstate in the media, and I'm talking about vote by mail. And you had a very close race up here in Chicago for state's attorney. And there was a misunderstanding is how they categorized it for those mail-in votes for the City of Chicago, because one day they all of a sudden reported like 20,000 more votes, but they said it was a communication error. Do you know what transpired? I hate to pick on you, but you have the expertise. This is Lance Goss.
Mr. Goss, can you come up here?
And if you could explain to me too, what happened with the vote by mail in the state's attorney's
You're really on that.
And be advised that that's why you should not come to me.
Well, I want to take advantage of it while you're here.
And if you could spell your name, please.
Hello, my name is Lance, L-A-N-C-E, Gough, G-O-U-G-H. I'm the retired executive director from the Chicago Board of Election. I've been retired for 2 years now, but I still work with the Chicago Board. And what happened was that it was when the ballots, we count them in different stages, because once we get all of our ballots lined up, and at 7 o'clock we start counting, but we still receive ballots on election day. We have to make sure that somebody hadn't gone into the precinct and voted instead of, you know, their absentee, and deleted their absentee ballot. So, items that have to do with, you know, reporting. There was a report of 9,000 ballots missing. They weren't missing. They were in a locked safe, and they didn't open up the safe. And that's what that major problem is.
Okay, thank
They
you.
were locked up in the safe.
It just said communication error, so I thought, what does that mean? So
Wasn't communication.
I knew you'd know, so thank you. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Goss. Bernadette?
Yeah. So the next two items in the kind of post-election report and update is it's a voting system pre-election testing informational reports. This actually occurred prior to the primary. We reported on it last month, but the written reports were not available yet. These reports just outline that each of the jurisdictions that were pre-tested encountered no errors, and there was a successful pre-test. So Erica Christel is available, staff are available if there's questions, but it is purely informational right now. And then the next item is the election judge training school. Also occurred prior to the primary election date, and it's just a listing of the election judge trainings that were conducted, the staff within election operations that were assigned. You'll notice that there were a lot of staff assigned. We have several new hires in the division, so a lot of the trainings, there was a more senior member conducting the training, and a new hire accompanied that person to be able to go out next time. We'll anticipate a lot of these types of election judge trainings again before the general election.
Good. Any questions of Bernadette at this time? All right, legislative update.
Okay. Let's see. In the legislative space, the most important activity this week was our House Appropriations and Budget hearing. Jeremy Kirk, Brian Pryor, and I appeared to provide testimony in support of our FY25 budget and appropriation request. CFO Elena Gutselenko also attended with us. The hearing itself began two hours after the scheduled time, pretty typical. And by the time we were called to testify, it was around 8:30 p.m. So after a long day, we received no real questions from the committee. There was one question, but it was actually submitted to us erroneously. So before we even left the building, they notified us that they were revoking the question, and we had no follow-up. So that is good. But we did meet with Chair Crespo ahead of that hearing. Brian Pryor coordinated a meeting with Chair Crespo's staff, and we were able to sit for about 15 minutes and answer all the questions that he had. So I think it did help with the hearing, being able to do that ahead of time. So thank you to Brian for doing that. It's very beneficial when we get to do it. They usually have a list of all the committee's questions, and they can really submit it to us, both to get insight into any budget numbers, but also operationally, how that money is going to be applied. So yeah, a pretty successful first hearing. We do have the Senate hearing next Wednesday. It is in Chicago. It is scheduled to begin at 8:30 a.m. So, but hopefully we are not there at 8:30 p.m.
Well, two things. I attended the ranked choice voting. Brian took me there. We attended that, and there were lots of questions at that hearing for Brian, and he did an excellent job, actually. And then I know that they have met Mr. Turbin. Rick, do you have any comments? Ms. Craig, at the legislative committee? Do you have any comments?
I'd like to echo what said Vice Chair. I think Brian Pryor and the staff here are doing an excellent job of the communication aspects, and I know Chris and I have worked time together and feel very confident in all you guys are doing.
Yeah, I agree. Anything else from you in regard to legislation? Bernadette?
Yeah, no, the only thing is we'll continue to meet with the legislative subcommittee. Primarily, Brian will meet with them, but we're always available as well, especially as things start to move. The last month of session is when you see the bills coming in, and if there's a major issue or something that we would consider a high-impact bill, either on election administration or the agency itself, that's something that we would, more immediately reach out to the subcommittee. So as always, thanks for your time, being available. It's really been very easy to meet with everyone. It's been a seamless process so far. So along with that, we're continuing to pursue our own legislative package, most likely in an omnibus elections bill. If anything is to actually pass, it would be in that omnibus bill. So that's just going along with everything else that we're monitoring. We're also promoting that, finding sponsorship. Brian did attend a subject matter hearing for the House Ethics and Elections Committee. Chair West is sponsoring several of our items as well. So Brian was allowed to speak pretty briefly, but he was provided an opportunity to speak on all of our legislative package. And we'll continue to promote that and see what we can get into the omnibus bill. And that's really it right now. It's very busy though.
Yeah, no, and I'm sure that Rick and Chris would appreciate the 2 a.m. text saying, is this okay? Yeah, no.
We told them that was fine.
Brian will be there. All right, next up is the board meeting schedule for the next year. So that would be 2024 and 2025. You've had that. Is there any discussion? Do I have Mr. Turbin?
I think the dates look fine to me, but what I was going to ask for consideration is the possibility if we can move these meetings from 10:30 to 10 o'clock. Earlier.
Thank you, Mr. Turbin. I would even move that to 9:30. Do we have any question about that from people that have to do more traveling up here?
Well, I guess my only concern is making it back and forth by 9:30, but certainly we can make arrangements.
Yeah.
To do that.
Back and forth.
I think I would
Meaning like if we are to drive to Springfield or you guys
Oh.
would drive up here.
I would prefer 10, I was going to say. I do agree earlier, 9:30, for all those reasons, I think would be.
All right, so we would like to move the motion from Mr. Turbin is to 10 p.m. or 10 a.m.?
I would second that motion.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
All right, Amy, we'll have a roll call on that
Ms. Ballard?
motion, please.
Yes.
Ms. Craig?
Yes.
Ms. Genovese? Yes. Ms. McCrory?
Yes.
Mr. Turbin?
Yes.
Mr. Brett?
Yes.
Vice Chair Donahue?
Yes.
Chair Watson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, so meeting's at 10 a.m. Good.
I think we have to confirm this date.
Yes, and we will have a motion to confirm the date, please. Amy, or do I have a motion?
Second.
Okay.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, Amy.
Ms. Ballard Croft?
Yes.
Ms. Craig?
Yes.
Ms. Genovese? Yes. Ms. McCrory?
Yes.
Mr. Turbin?
Yes.
Mr. Brett?
Yes.
Vice Chair Donahue?
Yes.
Chair Watson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, voter registration activity.
Okay. So that item is informational. I did just want to note before we move on from the meeting schedule, this is the schedule of the regular meetings we anticipate having. I know legal is kind of drafting out potential dates for electoral board throughout July and August. sorry. But as we get those together, we'll probably give you some heads up on that, because we know that people do try to have a summer. So we'll get those to you. And also just wanted to let you know that, and we'll remind when obviously when we get closer to December, but the one meeting is marked as a 9 a.m. That is the meeting where we certify and proclaim the results of the general election. We hold that meeting earlier because that is the day that judicial officers begin their terms. And usually we will receive a reach out to please schedule that earlier so that they can then do their swearing-in ceremony later that morning.
Okay, gotcha, thank you.
All right, so the other items, voter registration activity, grant funding update, and the 2-year plan of staff activity are informational, but staff are available if you have any questions related to those items. Nothing is really out of the ordinary for these reports this month.
Any questions? All right, is there any other business to come before the Board of Elections? Bernadette?
I just have one request and a reminder from our ethics officers that board members are required to complete and submit their economic interest statements. If you have any questions or need assistance filing that, you can contact me or Jordan. Andrew will help you get through that process. It's pretty routine. For the amount of time it takes, the fine's not worth it. So we'll get that done for you guys. But we can send another reminder too, as everyone gets busy, sometimes it falls off.
No problem. Comments from the general public? Anyone in Springfield, Amy?
No one in Springfield.
Any of you wonderful people want to comment? All right, we need to move into executive session for the approval of